He's been covering Boston sports for forever and a day. He's got a new book out on the old days of the Larry Bird Celtics called "Wish It Lasted Forever: Life with the Larry Bird Celtics." Dan Shaughnessy here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Dan?
I'm good, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Congrats on the book. Congrats on the book.
I appreciate that. Good times. And tell Susie hello for me.
Yeah, I know. She's wanted me to say hello to you, too. Why write the book, Dan? What struck you about the book?
Good question. I mean, again, this isn't to, we all know who won those games and the stats and Hall of Famers, but this was a time when the NBA kind of came of age, and we had this amazing access. This jumped out at me during the pandemic when access got to zero. The moat just kept getting wider and wider, and then with abundance of caution, there's no access now. But we live with these guys. This is like, when the dinosaurs and Larry Bird and myself roamed the earth. We travel with them. They flew commercial, hotels, lobbies, bars, go to practice, no closed practices, be on the bus. It was like, except for not having the groupies or the money or the fame, it was like being on the team, Rich. I mean, we were there for everything. And, watching the Last Dance and some of the classics they showed in the without games going on during the pandemic, I kept seeing my young self sitting there with the giant Michael Caine glasses and the big hair, and and again, that's when the lowly media got to sit next to the bench. They hadn't figured out how to monetize those seats yet, so we were part of that. And of course, you had the Bird Magic, take over the '80s, and the Bird Magic Celtic Laker finals were like the Ali Frazier of that time. And I just had all these stories about being around these guys and the ability to tell the readers what they were like, how secure they were in their greatness, and what a special time it was when the NBA really came of age.
So you're saying at some point in Logan Airport, a Boston fan flying to Cleveland for just a business trip got to actually see Robert Parrish board a flight? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. When we would get off the plane, they were all in first class because they're so tall and they had those perks. But we'd come off the plane behind them, and you'd see these people just walking down the airport hallways, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I just saw all these tall guys at one time. Those must be a basketball team." And and then the lowly writers would be trailing them, and we'd hear all the whispering about Larry Bird or Robert Parrish or whatnot. But yeah, it was. We waited for bags. We did, all the. Rich, when the COVID bubble, when they had that tournament with no fans and in Orlando, you had to, if you went to cover that, it cost $60,000. You had to quarantine for 2 weeks and sign a waiver saying you would not talk to any athlete if you saw them anywhere. And that's where we did all of our work, was waiting for bags in the hotel bars, the lobbies, being on the bus. We were really able to tell the readers what these guys were like, and it was a very special group that they had there. The Lakers had it going in that decade as well, and the league really took off because of that.
Dan Shaughnessy here on the Rich Eisen Show. It's interesting that you have such a I guess a positive view of it, and it's sort of a very hagiographic view of it all. Me being from New York, I don't mean to stomp on your book, but I have written my own book, and if you want to, we actually have a cover. Maybe you'll see it later on. It's entitled "Thank God It Ended," living through the Bird Celtics in New York, and there's a shot on the cover of Bird shooting over Ewing in the Garden. So I have a different view.
Well, it's so funny. The '84, Hubie Brown. I just saw him last week. He's 147 years old, like myself, and he's still doing the games, and he's so sharp and great. I love him.
Right.
I gave him a copy of the book, but the highlight of his professional life was that '84 series of Bernard King. And they took him 7 games. I mean, Bernard was averaging 40 a game. I remember Cedric Maxwell called me over during practice before the first game of that series because Bernard was getting 40 a game against the Pistons in the playoffs. Yeah. And Max said, "There's no way a bitch walks like this is going to get 40 off of me." And then he did a mimic of Bernard's unusual gait. And I'm like, these guys, they were trash talkers, and they didn't care. Bernard wouldn't shake his hand for the next game. Max said, "Hey, if you're scared, get a dog." He didn't care. It was just, that's how they were. And that series went great. And again, for Hubie, they almost beat the Celtics in Game 7 at the Garden.
Yeah, I remember those Knicks, Pistons series with Kelly Tripucka. Yeah. Right. Now, honestly, in the old Joe Louis Arena, I remember those as a kid. And then Bernard was my favorite player. It still is jarring to see Julius Randle wearing his number 30, to be very honest with you.
You're right. That's not right.
Well, I mean, hey, look, I mean, I guess, Julius Randle at least is doing well by that number as far as I'm concerned. But, just is there any story that just that you forgot about, that you found notes for?
Oh, yeah, I had little notes
like
and stuff. So, again, Larry Bird, he could hold all these things in his head during a game. So he'd have a shooting drill at the old Boston Garden, late in the afternoon by himself, dark garden, come out with an equipment guy and just do the perimeter, shoot for half hours. All you heard was swishing. I'd get there early, plug in my Stone Age computer right next to the bench, he'd come over. He called me Scoop. He said, "Scoop, what are you working on?" I'm like, "I'm doing an early story. You are approximating the NBA record for consecutive free throws, Calvin Murphy at 88. So don't miss one tonight, or I'll look bad in the paper." So during the first half, he got fouled. He's at the line. He makes the first. He looks over and winks at me before he makes the second. I mean, guys don't do that today. And he would actually, Mike Saunders, the trainer of the Knicks.
Sure.
Larry was banking threes at Madison Square Garden before a game because he was getting bored. He won the three-point thing 3 years in a row and started banking them. And Saunders said, "You can't do that in a game." And Larry said, "If you give me $5, I will." And sure enough, they get way ahead of the Knicks. Fourth quarter, he banks a three. He runs by the Knick bench with his greedy palm extended. And where's my $5, Mike?
Love stories like that. Absolutely love stories like that because he was the legend. That's part of the legend of Larry Legend, and that's right.
Well, and the legend. So he was so dense. All he cared about was basketball. He's poor guy, rural Southern Indiana, and worked his butt off. Became great. Mm-hmm. We were at the Atrium in Dallas to play the Mavericks, and we're in the hotel bar. It's a day off, and Springsteen is playing next door at the Reunion Arena. And the doors flew open, and kids came rushing through the lobby to get to the concert. Mm-hmm. And Larry looks up, he goes, "What's that all about?" We said, "Well, Bruce Springsteen's playing next door tonight." He said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Larry, he's the U of rock and roll." He goes, "Oh, he must be pretty good then." And, he got tickets. He went. He said, "Yeah, it's too loud for me. I don't like that music, but he sweats a lot, and I appreciate that work ethic."
That's the legend. There's no doubt about that. So did he really know where the spots on the floor were? Like the dead spots on the floor? Or is that just the legend
stuff? The
stuff?
Bull Gang, when you have the ice and the parquet, you're going back and forth, and they assemble it. And Cheers did a whole episode on the bolts and all that stuff. So no one really knew. It changed from game to game. And when they would reassemble the rims, when he was doing that shooting drill in the afternoon, anytime he missed one, he'd say, "Oh, Bull Gang screwed that up. Something wrong with the basket. It's off by a quarter an inch. Otherwise, that would have been nothing but net." So, he had the thing down. But that's a myth that anyone actually knew when the ball wasn't going to come back to you.
Yeah, I know. Again, all of these things are why I wrote my book, Thank God It Ended, because honestly, just McHale and Parrish, I despised ML Carr growing up because he would just wave the towel.
He was baiting people.
Oh, my gosh. He did nothing. He did nothing but wave a towel. That's all I thought he did.
ML Carr, he was a guard in a federal prison before coming to the NBA. He played in Israel. He played overseas, played for the St. Louis Spirits.
I had no idea
about that. And he was Larry Bird's bodyguard for the first 5 years of Larry's career. He had very little skill left at the end, but he got in the heads of the Lakers in the greatest final ever in '84. He would pound on their door before the game and say, "Come out here, you L.A. fakers. Come out and take your beating like men. Come on out here, Tragic Johnson." I mean, they didn't care. And then at the end of the game, he'd steal the ball and go dunk on him and just make him even more furious.
You're loving these stories, Brockman. I know you're.
I mean, I cannot wait for this.
It's all great. What's Auerbach's role in all of this?
Well, Red was just smart when the whole chess when others are playing checkers. He assembled these teams. Go back and look at those rosters in '84 when the Celtics beat Worthy, Magic, Kareem. Those guys were all blue chip conference. UCLA, North Carolina, Michigan State. The Celtics starting five went to Virginia Commonwealth, North Carolina Charlotte, Indiana State, Centenary, and Pepperdine. So Red would say, easy to get blue chip and win like that. Let's see you do what I do, win with guys from second-tier conferences. There was all kinds of layers to that. And Red, I loved Red. My old man smoked cigars and windows rolled up, driving to the dump every Saturday, so I was used to it. I enjoyed being around that. And he was wise, and everybody hated him. And he hated New York. Do you want to know why he hated New York, Rich?
Why is that?
Because he grew up there, but he felt that the NIT screwed his George Washington team out of the NIT appearance in 1937, and he never forgave that. He said they just didn't want a little school from Washington to come in and beat their ass, St. John's and all my ass, And he never forgot it, and he couldn't get past his hatred of all things New York, even though, he was a Brooklyn guy.
Of course. Dan Shaughnessy here on the Rich Eisen Show. Before I let you go, let's talk about the here and now. Does this look like 2001 all over again for the Patriots? What do you think?
It's not bad, Rich, and I know you had a great day there, went to the game. I heard all about it here, and good for you guys.
How about that?
You don't want to say Mac Jones is Tom Brady because it's ridiculous. We know that.
Yes.
But at this stage, he is. I mean, he's doing what Tom did at this stage, which was game management, short passing game. He's accurate. And he doesn't choke in there. He takes hits. He's taken too many hits, frankly. And Bill, I guarantee you, Bill is enjoying this year probably more than any year since then, more than 18-0, more than that stuff, because this is hard. And they've rebuilt it. The defense is great. They're ferocious. And the offense, they get by. And he's just beating the pants off these other coaches, and it's a big advantage every week. We don't know where it's going to end, but as you know, the conference is not super strong this year, and they've kind of got the why not us attitude here.
Right, and the 2001 was, the only thing that's different is that there's not some $100 million contracted quarterback that had already taken the franchise to the Super Bowl that's there. I guess Cam was that role in a way, right? But he got cut, so it was Max gig from the start. Outside of all that, we are all, and many people are, just like, well, how far can this team really go with this kid anyway? And in 2001, even John Madden said that when the game was on the line, that they should play for overtime in the Super Bowl. Like, even to the very end, nobody believed it until Brady didn't believe it. He had his hands on his head in that famous photograph on the podium. Like, why not this year as a repeat? For real.
It's there. I mean, I think they're a team nobody wants to play right now. I think the Colts are that team right now, and the Chiefs look like they got it going. But I'll tell you, I mean, Tennessee's coming in here this weekend. They're 8-2. That's going to be tremendous. It's a 1:00 game. I'm surprised they kept it there, and we can't wait for that one because they have it tough. They have Buffalo twice and the Colts after that. So, I mean, it's getting harder for them.
What's the Vrabel-Belichick relationship, do you think?
Well, Rich, that's a good question because he's not afraid of him like all these other guys who wet their pants and look across the sideline. And you don't have that, he knows what they're up to. When they beat them in the playoffs in 19, Brady's last game, Vrabel was pulling some of that rule book stuff that Bill likes to do. Oh, go read the rule book. And, Bill was tearing his hair out because Vrabel did it to him. So, yeah, I mean, he was a wise ass when he played here. You think of him because of the position he played and the size of him. He's not going to be a big acumen guy. No, he was. They all knew he was smart, and he gave crap back to Bill even when he was a player. And now he's loving this. And I mean, hell, he could be coach of the year if they don't stop losing to bad teams. Dan
Shaughnessy here on the Rich Eisen Show, and I guess tying in your book to the topic du jour in the NBA, where LeBron suspended for a game, Isaiah Stewart 1 game more than LeBron because of the reaction to getting hit. What? I mean, you're talking about old school basketball in your book. You're laughing already. I think you know where I'm going with this. It's like, what was your sense of all of that?
That was unfortunate. The kid's reaction when he was bleeding and he's out of his mind. I mean, that's unfortunate. And the league did what it had to do. But I know I talked to McHale, just about how the 85-86 team translates to today's game because they went 50-1 at home. They had 5 Hall of Famers, and could they play today? And he's like, yes, because they had 7-feet people and they had long-range shooters and Rick Carlisle, who played on the team and coaches in the league today, says it translates. But Kevin said if we played by today's rules, and the way they're calling it, we'd all foul out in the first quarter. So that would be a problem. And one last thing on that, none of this hugging the guys on the other team afterwards or assembling, where are we going to play next year? Let's get together and create our own team. Larry Bird hated Bill Laimbeer so much that at the All-Star annually, Larry would be named a starter, of course. His first instinct was to come to us in the lowly media and say, you have to let me know when those reserves are announced because I hate when Bill Laimbeer makes that team because it ruins All-Star weekend for me because I got to get on the bus at practice on Saturday and Bill's sitting in that front seat and saying, good morning, Larry, and I got to say, screw you, Bill.
That's a real story, huh? I mean,
that's the fact.
I mean, literally he hated him that much, huh? He literally hated him.
It ruined his All-Star weekend to have a teammate, Bill Laimbeer.
I don't blame him. I hated Laimbeer too. Like even watching the WNBA playoffs this year. I'm seriously
easy to do.
I'm seriously we're watching it at home, and I point to my kids. I'm like, you see that coach? You see that gray-haired man? I almost used the A word, but I had to. Honestly, to this day, I can't even watch Land of the Lost repeats, knowing that he was a sleestack as a high schooler. I hate the show now, even with him.
You know what else Larry hated about him? Lambeer's dad was a Fortune 500 guy. He was the only player in the league who didn't make more money than his father.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wow. Great stories, Dan. Thanks for the call. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Congrats on your book.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Rich.
You got it. You got it. Same to you and your family. That's Dan Shaughnessy right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Wish it lasted forever is where all books are sold. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.